record, and here goes the encoder, and you're up and running.
All right, we are back. Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast, and today we have actress Ann Mahoney. How you doing, Ann?
I'm doing good.
Good, huh? Yeah. I believe you.
Is that a good acting job? Is that good? Do I win something?
I know why you got those parts now.
Do I win something? Okay.
As you can see, it was just two of us today because Rhino's running behind. He's always running behind, so we'll deal with it. We'll go without him. So lockdown. You've been pretty locked down since March, like the rest of us, right? So how's this new in-home schooling going?
Oh, yeah. I'm a master of second grade math. I just want you all to know. So just send your kids my way, and they will be dumber for having spent time with me on second grade math. So I'm here for you to make your children dumber in math. You're welcome. So, yeah.
So how much different is it teaching the students you teach at Loyola compared to teaching at home the second grade math?
Well, I mean, there's a reason I teach college, right? Like, I think it really is not only a special talent, but it's a gift from God if you're able to teach little people, Yeah. I really do. It's just like, I cannot imagine, but I know that these teachers that my kids have at their school, like, love it. And I love teaching college. I love college age students. I love that first, when they get out of the first time they leave their home, right? And they're trying to define themselves as an adult. I love that age. I love helping them, guiding them through that. And I teach acting, obviously, so that's exciting. But my older child, who's in 7th grade, is blowing me out of the water with his, autonomy. And I think it's great. Like, I get college students sometimes and I'm like, did somebody do all your work for you? Like, why can you not figure out how to schedule your life? And my almost 13-year-old is doing it. So he's nailing it. The other one's 8. Like, she wasn't walking 7 years ago, she's doing her best. So they get to go, she gets to go back to school soon. I'm psyched. I'm ready. Mama's ready.
So Mama gets a break.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mama gets to just focus on work instead of both, right? So
work and work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how long have you been teaching at Loyola?
I've been at Loyola about, it's 10 years now, but I've been teaching since I finished my master's, which was 2001. So I've been teaching for 20 years now.
Oh, and you did that and act all at the same time, as far as, did you take time off to act, or did you get to work both of them at the same time, or?
Yeah, I've been fortunate pretty much across the board with the universities that I've taught at over the years, that they really want teachers, and I think this is smart, like they want some teachers that are academics, which I think is like really important. There are some people who dedicate their whole lives to studying like commedia dell'arte, and that's fantastic that the students have those teachers, but it's also important to have teachers who are actually actors, right? And so I've been really fortunate that the schools I'm at, they understand that it's more benefit to their students if I'm a working actor. And so they're very well.
Give, or
say that again?
Different insights you can give, or just,
I think in my own training, I had very few teachers along the way who were actually doing it for a living. And so when I got out and started kind of pounding the pavement and trying to be a professional actor, it was a really steep learning curve for me. And so what I love is I did it today. I was teaching this morning and I got to come in and say, hey, this is what my day looked like yesterday. I finished, on Tuesday, actually, I finished teaching you guys. I came home and I had 2 auditions, one of which had an accent that I'm not familiar with. And they were both due the next morning. And I have 2 children homeschooling. There was homework and dinner that had to happen. If it's due Wednesday morning, when am I doing it?
Yeah.
Tuesday night, right? So I had 4 hours to turn 2 different auditions around.
TV dinners for everybody, right?
Say it again. I'm so
TV
sorry.
Dinners for everybody, right?
Right. Well, I do a lot of like, so I'm from New Orleans. So I cook all kinds of like gumbo and crawfish etouffee and jambalaya and all kinds of stuff that freezes really well. So then that becomes like a gumbo day. We're like, okay, I'm going to pull that gumbo out and make some rice, and we're going to have a salad. We're going to call it dinner.
What got you into acting? I mean, you started off as a teacher then, right? After you got your degree, or did you start off teacher or acting first?
Acting. I moved to New York on August 18th of 2001 after I finished my master's. So I moved there. What's that?
For Broadway or for?
Yeah, so I fully intended to be a theater actor. My training is all very classical, and I sing and I dance too. So I've played like Charity and Sweet Charity, and I've played Drood in The Mystery of Emily Drood. I've played Hamlet. I've played Juliet, Romeo and Juliet. I've played Harper Pitt in both parts of Angels in America. So it's a pretty serious theater actress.
Yeah.
And then I moved to New York less than a month before 9/11, after I finished my master's. So I was there for that.
Oh man.
Yeah. It was a career limiting move at that point.
Yeah.
It was intense. Of course, it was intense. It was, it was a life-changing moment. And so there wasn't, I had just started getting some good auditions on Broadway and off Broadway, and then that happened. And so I ended up working in World Trade Center relief with victims of the attacks for a few years. And then I moved home to New Orleans. And that was when I got my first agent. And I'm not skinny and I'm weird looking. And she was like, whatever, you should do film and television acting. And she invited this agent to see our play. She signed me, and I booked the very first thing I auditioned for.
No,
that was how it started.
Was you really worried about you not being skinny and everything?
Well, back then I did. I think I was in a different mindset back then. I think the industry's changed tremendously since then. I still think it has a long way to go. But I think back then I had so many teachers that told me that I needed to either like gain 40 pounds or lose 40 pounds. And I was like, what if I could just look like can I curse?
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, what if I could just look like I fucking look and have it be okay? How about that? How about I'm the size of the average American woman? Like,
right.
I'm a 14. 12, 14 is the size of an average American woman. But in my industry, you have to either be way bigger or way smaller. It was that way. And I definitely took that criticism on. I don't feel that way anymore. Now I'm like, this is it. This is like.
Well, good for you. It's still amazing that people even act like that, as far as like telling you have to weigh more or weigh less. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that, but it's weird to hear it coming from an actress saying that, hey, weigh more or weigh less. Don't be.
It's still a thing. There are still teachers out there today that are telling women this over and over again. They're telling girls in college that are studying this, regardless of their talent level. They may be the most talented person in the program, and they're going to make it seem as if it is. And the industry is still pretty shallow that way. It is. It's changing, and that's brilliant to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like it only hurts though. I mean, you're going to give people complexes as far as like eating habits and just your overall confidence in yourself. And
I've had 2 bouts with anorexia in my life. And the thing about anorexia on a person who I'm very muscular, very muscular. I do like Suzuki training with my master's is in. It's long, complicated, very physically exhausting Japanese method of training. I walk 4 miles every day. I do Pilates. And on a person with my frame, even when I was very unhealthy and really hurting myself and not eating, I don't look like someone who is naturally thin, who's gone overboard, and where it's very, very obvious that they're anorexic. And so people would just tell me all the time how great I looked. They're like, you look great. And I'm like, thank you. And I'm like, I'm dying.
Thank you, I do.
Yeah, I'm dying, right? I'm a size 6. And for me, size 6 is dying.
Oh.
Right? And that's still big in Hollywood. They love a 2. They love a 0, right? So yeah.
So going through those barriers and stuff, and you still, you're a wonderful actress. You've had such great roles. I mean, what got you to those points where you were actually confident enough to do all the roles that you did, all the auditions you did?
Yeah, I think it was my training. I mean, I don't think I know it was my training. My undergraduate training was all in what was popularly known as the method, Stanislavski method, and then also I did Meisner and Strasberg work. But my master's was the place where I really gained confidence. I studied the Suzuki method of actor training, which is a modern Japanese technique created by Japanese theater master Tadashi Suzuki. And he draws from 2 big traditions in Japanese theater. One is called No theater, NOH, and they would build a wooden stage over a cemetery. and they would stomp the stage vigorously, and they believed it awakened the spirits, and the spirits would inhabit the actors. And in no theater, you might be an apprentice for 12 years before you were trusted with one little gesture and a line. It's very intense. And then it also drew from kabuki, which is, most people know kabuki theater. It's the big bright makeup and the masks and the stomping and the yelling.
Yep.
So I think that training, because for the first time in my life, people were telling me to be less. In fact, I was allowed to be kind of ferocious.
Yeah.
That work gave me all kinds of courage in just being who I was and owning my power.
Well, it sounds scary as hell, stomping on graves and being taken over by spirits, and so
yes,
you can get through that. You can get through anything.
Yep. So I attribute it to that, and then after that, just hello, Rhino, just being
hello, how are you?
I'm good. Just being a woman in this world, I think you have to. There's so much that we fight every day to like maintain our power, and I'm older now, right? And I've had 2 children. I bore 2 children and went through that. I feel really strong. And now I'm teaching 2nd grade math. It'll be the 2nd grade math that kills me.
Now you are humbled, yeah. So what made you decide to go ahead and go for it as far as like acting? You said your friend said you should go TV and movies. When did you decide to do that, and what was your first role?
Theater or for film?
For film.
For film, it was, I just went because my agent gave me the auditions. I was like, so I went. And I really didn't feel like I had the training or knew what I was doing, but I was like, well, I guess I'll just do what I've always done, which is be really honest. And, so it was the very first thing I auditioned for in book was Frankenstein. It was going to be a television series on the USA Network. We ended up only shooting the pilot, but it was starring Parker Posey, Adam Goldberg, and Michael Madsen. And I'd scenes with all of them. It was the guest starring role of the pilot. It was I played Michael Madsen's little goth chick next door neighbor who locks herself out of her apartment, and he ends up strapping her to a toilet with duct tape all night, and like he's about to flay her open, and she escapes and then lives to tell the tale. So that was my very first role on camera, and we shot in reverse order. So I started all beaten up and bloody on the back of an ambulance telling the tale of nearly dying at Mr. Michael Madsen's hands.
And duct tape to a toilet.
Duct tape to a toilet. Lots of KY jelly against my face. So when I picked my face up, it looked like snot coming out onto the toilet seat. It was hot.
Yeah. When did you get the role as Olivia? How did that come about? I know everybody's gonna want to hear about the Walking Dead. So
yeah, it was. So that was like almost a 10-year process, interestingly enough, because I met the woman who does casting, who I love. Her name's Lisa Mae Fincannon, and actually she's in Fincannon and Associates. It's her and Mark and her husband Craig that all cast. They've cast me a bunch of stuff. I met her in 2004, and I had auditioned for her over the years and booked things, and this came around in, I think it was 2014. So anyway, I got the audition. It was a tape. It was a self-tape, and I'm sure fans of the show know that you don't get you get dummy sides. They're not real pieces of the script. And my character that I had in the dummy sides was this big monologue. It was this woman who had just gotten out of jail and had won like a pot brownie making competition and was trying to convince this man to let her park his Ferrari. It was like the weirdest. It was so funny too. It was so funny. And I was like, this is for The Walking Dead, huh? So I knew that what they were going for was somebody who could deliver like a funny line in the midst of kind of a dark circumstance and still maintain tone. So anyway, I taped it. I sent it in. I booked it from tape. It was my first audition for them, and I booked it straight from tape.
And you get to make those pot brownies or no?
No. I'm actually one of those people who like, it does the opposite to me. Like I'm the same with Benadryl and NyQuil. Other people are like night. I'm like hanging from the ceiling. Yeah, and the same way with pot. Pot does not like, I get like real paranoid. I think I'm dying. Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Pot brownies then.
No.
What memorable scenes you remember from being on The Walking Dead? I mean, I know you had the Negan slap, and that was, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, that was so much fun. I'm so glad I got to do that because I'd never really seen the show before I booked it. I mean, I watched it obviously before I auditioned because I wanted to get a sense of the tone, but I read the comic books. And so I knew about that moment once I found out who I was. Because of course in the audition, I didn't even know my character's name.
Oh yeah.
In the audition, it wasn't her name. I didn't find out who I was until I walked on set. Like I walked into my costume fitting.
Okay.
But I think the most memorable thing about that show, besides just individual stuff that happened and I got to do, is the feeling of being in that group of people. They're just, I think we work really hard, and it's a lot of it's outdoors and it's hot, and everybody's so pleasant.
Yeah.
And so good to each other. And the crew is like just top notch. Like it's like jumping onto a moving train. It's such a well-oiled machine. So I think the biggest thing for me overall was just the lovely feeling of being a part of that.
Yeah, we had Lou Temple on not too long. Well, actually about 6-7 months ago, and he said the same thing. He just loved who we worked with, and that's kind of the reoccurring theme we hear with the Walking Dead actors.
Yeah,
it's like one big family.
Yeah.
We got Terry here. I don't know if we call this Low Expectations podcast for a reason, and now you see why.
Well, my apologies for jumping in late, and my buddy, his truck broke down, and I had a 4-hour drive, so I had to get back, and I was supposed to be at a different location, but because of that, I had to. So there's no excuse, but helping a friend out. Gary's not used to that though.
No,
just so you know, Gary don't help his friends out.
I do not.
I'm just kidding. Why? Gary's a great guy. Yeah. So, but anyways, no. Now, as far as like you were talking about shooting on the set of Walking Dead and everything, and how it was a great atmosphere. Now, compare that to you said, how long have you been teaching math? You said
about, I guess it's been like 6 months.
6 months. Now, the reward, because I always hold teachers, to a higher standard. Well, not necessarily standard, but I hold them, close to my heart, because they're forming the minds, and, and they mean so much. Like there are certain teachers in my life, if I didn't have them give me certain suggestions just about life, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Now, obviously acting and everything is very rewarding, even when you're on the set like Walking Dead. But do you think when you're educating the youth, do you think that's very rewarding? And when you see them down the road, they come up to you and they'll say, hey, I had you, and you meant this much to me, and this and that. I mean, as far as rewards, what do you think? I know you don't have a lot to compare with the educating, but what do you think the rewards are? They comparable, or do you hold one higher than the other?
Well, okay, to be clear, I'm homeschooling 2 children, and part of that task is 2nd grade math.
Oh, okay.
If you'd been here on time, you'd have knew that.
I teach at Loyola. I teach at Loyola University. I teach actors, and I teach acting.
Okay. Oh,
and
cool.
that's
okay.
I mean, teaching my children is not rewarding, because my 8-year-old thinks I'm an idiot, right? Because like no one really wants to be taught by their mom, really, unless your mom is like Mother Teresa. Like no, everyone thinks their parents are an idiot, right? But teaching college, I find it's one of the most rewarding things that I do. I actually said that today, and I think sometimes my students think I'm just saying it, but it's better for my soul than anything else. Because the truth is, my own education, I had very few teachers who were professional actors. And I promised myself that if I was given the opportunity to give to them not only just an education about acting and how to do it and methods and stuff, that I would share with them what it was like to really do this. And that I would give them an advantage that I feel like I didn't have, so I find it tremendously rewarding. I have a student, I don't know if you're familiar with the show Claus. But he was Toby. He was the boyfriend to Dean Norris character on that show. He walked out of my acting for camera class and onto that set. And And now I don't take credit. That child's tremendously talented, and he's not a child anymore. He's, you know, he's grown, but like that stuff. And the bigger stuff that's rewarding is like when you have a student who, you know, flunks out one semester because they're doing some stuff they shouldn't be doing in college, and they come back and they say thank you and they take the class again and they aced it. That stuff gives me goosebumps all over. To have been the teacher who sat them down and said, maybe you shouldn't be in college right now. Maybe it's time to like take stock and figure some stuff out and come back. And then they come back and they're healthy, and they suddenly nail the class, and you see all this tremendous talent that they have. That work is top of the line in terms of it, the way it nourishes your soul. And
Right. Yeah, I can.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Also, since you're molding these, you know, these young actors' minds, should we be scared of these actors when they get out, or should we be, you know, looking for?
You should be excited, because I feel like a lot of the teaching that came out of, who are my teachers, that came out of like the 60s and the 70s was a bit abusive in its way. It was like I had teachers who would use any trauma in my life to get me to be emotional. And I disagree strongly with that method of teaching actors, where you just beat them down or debilitate them to get to a place. I disagree with actors who do that to themselves too. I don't think that's real. I don't think that's art. I think it's much harder to really actually take yourself to those places and then know how to bring yourself back to a healthy place. Okay. So I really teach from a perspective of mental health and then courage. So courage, having the courage to go to the places you need to go. How do you get there? And giving students the tools, not to abuse themselves, but to really know how to dig in. And then the rest of it to me is kind of like having faith. It's belief that what you're doing is coming across.
So being a teacher, do you find yourself on the set with other actors like, you know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan or anybody? Do you find yourself wanting to say something as far as like a teaching?
No, never. No, because I think it's a different hat. You know, like I think when I'm on set, I'm there to engage with the person I'm acting with and be in the moment with them. And if I'm standing outside of it in a way that I can be critical, it's bad for me, first of all, because I will be critical of myself, right? And it's bad for the work because then I'm not in the scene. So no, I mean, I've worked with some younger, less experienced actors on things that are doing their first thing, and they've asked me something. And if they ask me something, of course, I'm not going to be like, good luck, you know, but if they ask me, I'll give them, you know, but I always couch it like, you know, this is your process though, right? This is your process. And there's a director, and they're going to tell you if they don't like what you're doing. You don't have to make it up. You can just listen and be present, you know?
That makes sense. I was just wondering if, you know, because like Terry being a wrestler, I'm sure if he sees one of a younger wrestler doing something wrong, you know, he's like, oh, you know, gonna be the wrestler, or is he gonna be the teacher?
I think mostly what happens is I just enjoy when I'm in the scene, I have to be with them. But if I'm waiting and I get to watch, I love watching. I love watching people's process and how they go places. And I think it's fascinating.
You're all for, like, if someone takes themselves to a place and then, you know, they know how to bring themselves back, opposed to the teaching where you're just beating a person down. So you're okay with a person going to maybe a thing that happened in their life where it'll bring out the emotions, but you don't like the teaching where you create new battered, you know, mental abuse.
Exactly.
Right? Because I know a lot of people, I think it's healthy as long as, like you said, as long as you can bring yourself out of it, you know, like, especially, I forget what kind of acting they call that, but especially like in wrestling, sometimes you're supposed to show different emotions, you know, and I'm definitely not for beating someone down and creating new tragedy in their life, because unfortunately we all go through tragedy. But if you can channel that and come out of it too, I think that, you know, that's great, you know. But the key word, like you said, is come out of it, because you don't want to just go to emotion, a moment in your life and, you know, get stuck with it for like several weeks after, you
Yeah.
It's not good for your mental health. So,
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Big question, Ann. Are you a wrestling fan?
you don't have to say yes. You
Don't
put her on
worry.
the spot, Gary. Come on now.
I mean, okay, let me just say, I don't have a bad opinion about it. It's
Right,
just
right.
not like
It's not your cup of tea,
literally, I don't watch anything.
Right.
You know, like everything that I watch is animated and it's with my children.
Yeah.
And beyond that, I'm like so busy. There's one other thing that I do that's an art form. It's just I listen to books on tape and I exercise. That is my one, like my art outlet. Everything else, I don't watch anything because I don't have the time,
Right.
you know, to watch anything. My nephews are super into it and they're going to be pretty impressed with this interview.
Now, as far as
go ahead, Terry.
no, go ahead, Gary.
Did you ever
as far
watch
as,
yourself? Nope. See, look, there we go again. You go.
Now, when you watch stuff, if you were to watch stuff, would you critique people by habit?
Well, I think that
Or
everybody
acting?
does that. I mean, like everybody does that. In just term, if you asked anybody, if you said who are your favorite actors, right, they would be like, I like this person, this person, this person. And if you were like, who do you think is terrible? They would be like this person, this person, this person. And the funny thing is, one person's most terrible actors is another person's favorite.
Right.
So, you know, I think that everybody on some level, it's what to me, it falls into belief. Do I believe you?
Yeah.
Right.
Within the context of whatever world you're in this project. Like, do I believe you? And there's things that I believe and there's things that I don't, right? And it's not always the same actors over and over again. There's actors I see in some things where I'm like, whoa, blowing my, knocking my socks off. And then I see you in something else and I go, and guess what? I feel like that about my own work. There's stuff that I've done that I'm like, and stuff I'm like, I think I fucking nailed that, right?
Right.
So
do you watch your own work?
I do.
Yeah.
I believe deeply in that. Now, I understand actors that don't want to do it, but I feel like since I came from theater, that was my big background and my training, and then went into this. In theater, you have a reference point, and that is audience reaction, right? Because you're on a stage in front of people, and you can hear and feel if what you're doing is coming across, right? And if it's reading. You don't have that reference point on camera. The only way for you to know is to watch. For me, like I want to go back and watch because I can remember how I felt shooting something. And if I look at it, I'm like, oh, wow. That didn't come across the way I thought, right?
Can you give us an example? Is there anything that stands out to you that you could?
I had played, this is a smaller character. I played this character named Flo on the show Thief.
Okay.
Which actually, Merle, the actor who played Merle, I'm blanking on his name right now. On The Walking Dead. Anyway, he was in that, and he was in scenes with me on that. And this is before
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker. Yep. And this is before this is early in my career. And the character was this kind of really sassy secretary type character, which, as you know from my body of work up until the last few years, I didn't tend to get cast that way. And I felt very at sea in the work that I was doing. And my insecurity is all over that. If you watch it, you can just see my hesitation and everything. And I learned after that like, whatever I'm going to do, I got to do it like with full commitment.
Yeah.
Right. And not question myself or be critical about it. So yeah. And then the stuff that I felt great about, I felt great about most of my Walking Dead stuff, most of it. And I really felt great about playing Gladys Presley. That was one of those once in a lifetime roles that like, I was like that was weird. That was like in a whole category in itself of like Conjuring or something. I don't know how else to put it.
Was Sun Records right after The Walking Dead then?
I was actually shooting Sun Records the same time I was shooting my last season of Walking Dead. Okay. It was in 2016. So I was going back and forth between Atlanta and Memphis.
Did you know it was your last season, or was it?
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know until about 6 weeks before my death. So it's not like I started season 7. They were like, P.S. You're going to be dead by mid-season.
Killing you off.
Right. But I did find out about 6 weeks before I shot.
How was that? I mean, knowing you're going to be leaving a show that, a huge show, a great family, like you said.
Yeah, it's devastating. It's like you're losing your job. It's like getting a pink slip, right?
Well, you had Sun Records, tell us though.
I had Sun Records, and I shot Logan Lucky that summer too. So that was a really great summer. And then it was like crickets for a little while. But yeah, that like this is what I try to tell people. I'm like, when they're like, I hate that character, I hope they fucking die. I'm like, you're basically saying like, I hope that Lou loses his job. That's what that is. Like, because that's what happens. We're unemployed, right? And depending on how big a role you are in a show, you might be under contract that hasn't even allowed you to audition for the next thing.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you might not even have anything lined up. So you're like legit unemployed.
Yeah.
Right?
Did Gimple tell you that or somebody tell you that you were going to die, or was it just like an email or
Oh, it was Gimple.
Yeah.
Gimple, he had called me once earlier in the season to apologize for the fat joke, and like I forget which episode that was of 7, if it was the first one or the fourth one.
Jeffrey D. Morgan did the fat joke, right?
Yeah, when he said like a nice job putting the fat lady in charge of the pantry. So Gimple called me about that. He's like, I'm so sorry, I think that's tasteless, but Negan's a bad dude. I was like, it's fine, just let me do the slap scene from the comic book.
Right.
And Gimple was like, I said it, and Gimple was like, well, I'm not sure if we're gonna have time. I was like, it would just really make up for the fat joke, really would.
Now, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I forget what the question was, but there you go.
Now, as far as traveling, my apologies. I wanted to ask this before I forget. A lot of people don't realize, like with wrestling, it's like always travel. But you guys have to travel away from your homes for weeks or months at a time. Yeah. How is that on you and the family life and all that stuff? Because a lot of people, I don't hear them ask that as much as they ask like wrestlers and stuff, to travel and being away from home.
Yeah, I'm fortunate in that my parents live where I live, and they're wonderful, and my younger brother lives here, and so I have quite a few family members that can help out with the kid situation. And I was fortunate in Walking Dead too, because I was rarely gone. I think there was one time I was gone for 9 days. But for the most part, I would be gone for 5 days. Somewhere between 5 and 6 days. And that's, that works. I think, your children, I just get real with my kids. I'm like, you see the house? Okay.
You're right.
Costs money.
Right.
Lights, blinky, lights on, costs money. Has computer and internet, it costs money. And guess how the money happens? Mommy has to go away and make the money, right? And I think a lot of parents want to shield their kids, I think sometimes, which again, I understand, but from like the reality of like stuff is expensive. Yeah. And I was just like, yo, you want to see how much everything costs? Let me show you.
Right.
So when mommy's gone, but I come home and the great part about what I do, although I'm really ready for it to get going again, Jesus, is when I'm gone, I'm gone. But when I'm home, I'm home.
Right.
I'm really here. I'm here with them first thing in the morning. I pick them up from school. I'm doing homework with them. I'm making their dinner. I'm putting their bed. And that's not something that's I'm gone, but when I'm home, I'm home. And that's tremendous. So I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my kids, and they're really
that's
cool.
Always good. Where you can leave work at work and and be home and you're home.
Yep.
Now, as an actor, my wife's down there watching Bridgerton again. So I was wondering, is there a show or a series that you would love to see yourself on? Do you ever go, wow, I'd love to be on that show?
I would love to be on Bridgerton. Are you kidding me?
That's right.
I got all kinds of hair, you guys. You don't even need a wig. I'd love to do any fantasy show. I would love to do like a Game of, like everything I want to be on is now canceled. But like I would love to be on like a Game of Thrones situation. I loved like the series Chernobyl, which is like depressing as all get out. Now is not the time to watch it. Or maybe it is. Maybe you're into that. But like, I love those really, like, those shows where I guess I like extremes. I like the stuff that's like so real that you are not sure you're watching fictional, not fictional, but a show like Rectify, the show on Sundance. I got to do 2 episodes of that, but that's a tremendous show. Like, it won a Peabody Award. It's just tremendous. I love that stuff. And then I love the other extreme, which is like, you know, lots of costumes and fantasy and like, you know, and so I've gotten to do Walking Dead, but I don't really consider that fantasy. I consider it like a kind of combination of like gritty, real, and horror, you know?
What if they ask you to do that and you have to do accents? I mean, is that something every actor
I love an
do, or is
accent.
that you just love to do accents?
Come on, bring it on. Yeah, actually, I have several in my back pocket because I keep them fresh. And the funny thing is, I had an audition. I can't even tell you about it because you have to sign things. But I had an audition with one of the few American regional accents that I'm not very good at. Tuesday. Like, I'm great. Anything Southern, I can give you the difference between North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, like, and they're all different. Southern accents are very different. They vary from state to state. I can do New York in a heartbeat. I can do a great Midwest accent. This is the one that I suck at, and that was one of my 2 auditions the other day. And then I keep up with the ones that I usually have in my back pocket are of Yorkshire, British, Scottish, Irish, German. Yeah, but you know, I don't get a lot of that stuff. I get a lot of like the people I play tend to be everyman. They tend to be salt of the earth, kind of blue collar.
So if they book you on a Boston show, you can just drop a Boston accent or whatever.
So that would be the accent that I suck at. So I called my friend who is like works with the Dropkick Murphys and at a boxing ring in Boston. He's also an actor and a filmmaker. And I was like, Adam, you got to help me, buddy. Like, I need you to just talk me through this, give me some good flips on these words. Cause they basically said in the audition that they didn't want a crappy Boston accent. I don't blame them. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want it to be crappy, but there has to be a flavor. And so, yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Was it like an inflection, or is it like the terminology they use, or just? Well,
you have the script is the script. So luckily I'm not trying to write. But it's like there's some really good, if you just do a couple things, like instead of party, like I have a hard R, which is part of being Irish and part of being American. But you know, a potty instead of a party, you know, that right there automatically gives a little flavor without. And he just kept saying, just touch it lightly. So instead of going potty, you know, just be like potty. Yeah. Just touch on it lightly. What was the other one that he gave me? Oh, they had the ladies, and he's like, that's not what she would say. That's not what she would say, my friend. He's like, she'd say the pissa. He's like, but again, don't hit it too hard. Just tap on it. And that was really good. He helped me with like, gave me a couple of good changes that are going to give it a flavor without me doing like a full-blown, poorly prepared Boston accent, right?
Right.
If I book it, I'll spend a lot more time on it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I had 4 hours.
I think you nailed it. You're watching it. Watch the Wahlburgers or something, and you'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah.
Now I want to get back to. I know we're probably running out of time here. I want to get back to the slap, because I want to know: did you enjoy slapping Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and how hard did you just wail off on him? Was it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes? Was it?
So, okay, so you're a wrestler, so you know like about stage combat, right? Which
no,
I'm trained
really.
in. You don't know about stage? Well, you guys do it. You're not actually really.
Well, no, there is sometimes, especially like live events and live TV and pay-per-views, we kind of lay it in. You know, we don't want to hurt people. Yeah. You know, but like with slaps and stuff, you definitely don't want to go anywhere near the ear. But you know, like with acting and stuff, you know, when people are green and they're just getting into it, or if they get overly excited, you know, we can't take 2. You know, when you're you know, being on the stage and stuff. So it's one of those things. Sometimes you'll get slapped in the ear, and a lot of times people will have their eardrums popped. So, but yeah, and like a lot of stuff, you want to lay it in, but you don't want to hurt the person. You know, and sometimes, you know, you'll try to work it, and you know, you'll you'll come up short, which those times are always brought up every single time. But
I saw this, yeah.
A guy will get his face crushed, and his orbital socket, crushed, and everybody brings up that missed punch, where the guy sells.
That you still have to sell,
yeah. So we never really went in training where it's like, okay, combat, it's like, okay, these are the moves, try not to kill anyone, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've had a lot of stage combat training, and like I just did a movie, which I don't know, it came out, but I don't know where it is. I'm fast. It's with Kelsey Grammer and Anna Friel and Sean Astin, called Charming Hearts of Men, and they had a stunt double for me to do this punch, and I was like, I mean, thank you, but I can totally do a fake punch. Like, I can fake punch somebody. And the stunt guy was like, okay. And we did it a couple times. He's like, well, fuck, this is great. And the guy behind the camera was like, Jesus. So, but it's a fake punch. And I wanted to do a fake slap with Jeffrey. And Jeffrey's like, just hit me. Just hit me. I was like, I have 2 brothers. This is going to be very bad for you. He was like, no, just go ahead and hit me. And so the director was like, look, we're going to shoot this like 4 or 5 times. Don't hit him. Right? Because you don't just hit him over and over again. Right. And then she was like, I'm not going to tell him, but I want you to actually hit him this time. This is the time when we rolled on, like, I forget what take it was. I was like, okay. And I slapped him so hard. And it wasn't even like, I didn't mean to really slap him that hard, but like, I'm fucking offended in that moment. I was offended. I was like, why could we not just do a stage slap? Because then I could be as offended as I want to be, but then I'm not. It's very hard to like measure your aggression when you're actually hitting someone, And so we did it, and they cut, and like after we cut, like everybody came out of Video Village and they were like, oh, she slapped the shit out of you, and he was like, Jesus. I was like, I'm sorry, I told you, And so it's so funny because that look that he gives when he turns his face back and he goes like that was totally real. He was like, fuck, Mahoney. I'm like, I'm sorry, I warned you, I told you.
So that's why the director did the several different takes. And so when you actually did hit him, it was a real reaction, kind of like,
oh yeah,
she just knocked me out.
It's a real reaction.
You didn't knock him out.
No, well, I mean, I wasn't punching him.
Right.
But that's what they said on the set of Charming the Hearts of Men after we shot the punching scene. The director was like, you got to come look at this. And I looked at it. She's like, and the producer goes, I have a feeling you've actually punched someone before really hard. I was like, what? Maybe. So, yeah.
Right. But now, if you ever want to get your aggression out, I'll fly up to Detroit and you can beat up Gary. I would pay to see that.
I'm not trained for this.
I'll be like, you know what? Just go at him with everything you got.
I've been married 30 years. I can take it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you can.
Yes, I can. But we're going to have to wrap it up. It's getting close to the 5 o'clock hour. And I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. After seeing wrestlers for weeks and weeks and weeks, we finally got to see the beauty from the stage. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on. Do you have anything you want to tell anybody before you go, or anywhere they can find you, or what you got coming up? Or
you can, if you want to watch Stolen in Plain Sight right now on Lifetime. I play a really different character for myself. I don't want to give a lot away, but really different character. Gracie Gillum stars. She's fantastic. Yeah, so it's Stolen in Plain Sight. It's on Lifetime. I have a starring role in that. So.
And you got all the regular Instagrams, Facebook.
Oh yeah, sorry. Instagram and Twitter are both Annie Moho, ANNIEMOHO.
Thank you so much. And you want to take us out in a Boston accent?
No.
Say not.
I'll take you out in an Irish accent in a second. It was so nice to be on your show.
Well, thank you for your time.
Can you curse Terry out in Irish?
Yeah.
Before we go?
Yeah, fucking prick.
Yeah.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Right. Not the
Doesn't
first
get no better
time.
than that.
Right.
All right.
So,
thank you so much.
very much.
We appreciate you coming
Thank
on. Thanks
you.
for showing up, Terry. And Dave, thanks
you.
as always. Podcast Detroit will be on YouTube tomorrow, Instagram, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, and all the rest of them here coming up next couple of days. So thanks again.
Everywhere fine podcasts are sold.
There's God. Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. See ya.
Thank you.